Monsieur Anber, welcome back.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. I am back. And actually, just for the record, this cup of tea is Irish tea that I brought back with me.
Really? So is Irish tea better than British tea?
It's nice. It's nice. It's nice. I wouldn't say better, probably as good.
Right.
So it was nice. I'm quite enjoying it. It was Michael Hawkins who recommended it to me. So I brought some back with me, and it's very good.
Michael Hawkins, for those who may not know, who's Michael Hawkins?
Michael Hawkins is a friend of mine who we were in Seoul together. And for the next number of years, during my time with CBC and traveling with the national team, he was the head coach of the Irish national team. And we became friends.
Really?
And then, when that kind of ended 20 years ago, if you will, that we hadn't seen each other, when I went back to Belfast, I reconnected with him, got his phone number, reconnected, 20, 25 years had passed. We saw each other. So when I went back again this time, I made sure to reconnect with him and his son, Michael Jr. They run the Holy Trinity Boxing Club in Belfast. And, they were kind enough they hosted me at their home, played some snooker on their table. They had a snooker table in their house. And Michael Jr. played with me at the club, at the Blackstaff Club. So, that's who Michael Hawkins is. And, it's funny, you make relationships 30 years ago and they're still strong today. So that was really nice. They really made me feel welcome in Belfast, and it was great.
And that's boxing also in a sense that it's so international. And if you've been in amateur competitions at one point, and now the professionals, you travel around the world and you meet all sorts of people from all over the world, which is not always the case in other sports.
No, that's right. And they share the same passion. And they study it and they know their sport. And, it's great to see. And you end up staying friends for a long time. Like even people you don't see for years, if you go back, you see them again. It's like we picked up right where we left off and we feel comfortable and there's a friendship. And it was nice. It really was nice. I really love Belfast. Of all the places I've traveled to, I can name 5 cities off the top of my head where I would go in a second without hesitation and that I love. And one of them is Belfast. So I really like that place. I really enjoy it. People are nice. Good place.
Well, we'll get to that because it was a crazy atmosphere for the Mick Conlan victory. And for those of you tuning in again to the Calling Russ Anber edition, thank you so much. This summer, it's been the last few weeks, kind of every 2 weeks with the summer schedule, the time travel. It's been a bit difficult, but we're back on our weekly routine. So thank you for tuning in. And Russ, last week, we knew you were going to Ireland for a Mick Conlan fight. And Mick Conlan's been pretty active, fought earlier this year, now fought at 126 in Belfast. Was this the first time you were ever involved in a pro show in Ireland?
No, this is the second one, right? This was the second event that was held at Falls Park. I was there for the first one, and now this was the second one. Now, it should have been last year, but obviously with the pandemic, that couldn't happen. So they did it again this year. And Matthew, listen, the best way I can put this, I did this on a Boxing Social column, and I've been involved in main events at Madison Square Garden, the Montreal Forum, the Bell Center. I was at Leonard Duran. I wasn't involved in it, but I was at Leonard Duran in Montreal. I've been in the main event at the MGM Grand. I've been in the biggest venues boxing has. Manchester Arena main events. Nothing compares to what Falls Park was like when Mick made his entrance into the ring, and the people and the support behind him was just like something I've never experienced before in my life. Now, that said, it was emotional being involved in that, and it was only afterwards that I learned of his entrance song, which was sang live by 2 girls over there. 2 women sang his entrance song. And then the driver who took me to the airport told me the story of that song and the rich tradition of Irish history that song. If I'd have known that before, it would have been even more moving, Right. And that's why the people were so moved by it. It's what a great night. And I like Conlan's quote when he posted his entrance on Instagram. It was kind of fitting. He says, "That's how you enter a room."
And
it was
I'm
nuts.
I'm not surprised you saying that. For the Irish fan base, for whatever reason, why we know some of the British fans, and remember Ricky Hatton, how vocal they were for their support in Manchester for Ricky Hatton, but Ireland's like on another level. I saw this in MMA with Conor McGregor, and say what you want about Conor McGregor, but the fan base and the loyalty and the support that the Irish community had for him got him on the map to bigger paydays in the States and eventually making a name out there. And for whatever reason, even as your fighters are coming up in boxing or MMA, they support them like crazy. You would have thought Mick Conlan was already, a 4-division world champion this past weekend. And even though now he has a interim belt at 126, it has to be pretty cool that knowing that that fan base is going to drive him and it's going to probably follow him into big paydays, because he's going to bring now, if there's fights in the stateside or wherever he will fight for those big events, they will travel and they will pay to see Mick Conlan fight, and that will bring big money to whoever he faces.
I hope so, but this was what my thought was on this. I'm trying to see what fight could you put together that would be more for Mick Conlan in a main event. Now, I'm not saying if you're Top Rank and you want to feature him, let's say, as a co-feature on another card, on somebody headlining.
Like a heavyweight championship bout or something.
Whatever, and he's co-feature. Okay, you put Conlan on the undercard. But in a feature bout, I can't think of a fight or a place that would be more lucrative to have anywhere else other than Belfast.
Yeah, it's a great point. But then the question, will the top guys be willing to travel there and have like a huge hometown disadvantage? But we've seen it in before. Like Lucien Boutte traveled to Nottingham to fight Carl Froch in his backyard, and that crowd was crazy, and it ended up being a tough performance for Boutte, right? The knockout by Froch. Whoever goes to fight Conlan, no matter how skilled they are, they would be at a big time disadvantage with that crowd.
Agreed, but the only way technically, and it comes back to the golden rule, when Jean Pascal fought Bernard Hopkins,
yeah,
even after winning the right to the rematch, for whatever reason they win the right to the rematch, Golden Boy didn't take the Pascal Hopkins fight and move it to another venue, because no matter where they would have moved it to, it wasn't going to be as lucrative to them or to Hopkins as fighting Jean in Montreal. So no problem. If you come across an athlete who's going to do a better number than what Conlan would do in Belfast, okay, no problem. You go there. Simple math, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You go there. So it's going to take a heck of a guy who can draw the numbers that Conlan draws, and the money that you would be able to make going to meet him in Ireland, because you'd get more because it's generating more money. You would also make more. I'm hard pressed to think of a place that could be better than Belfast.
Yeah, it's a good point. What happens is that I think, like when you saw in the past, Joe Calzaghe, throughout almost all his career, he was filling football stadiums. So why would he come stateside? He came at the tail end of his career, so unless Conlan wants to do a bit like Anthony Joshua, because Anthony Joshua, there's no argument that he excels and makes more money staying in the UK, but he did try to come to the States for a bit more exposure when he fought Andy Ruiz, and then ended up going to Saudi Arabia in a neutral site for big money. But unless Conlan really wants to have that, more American presence with Top Rank, and like you said, on a big undercard or some, no doubt that he should be fighting all of his bouts in Belfast.
And you would think that Top Rank as well, they're in the boxing business to make money, right? It's a money business. So you as a promoter, you want 10 Mick Conlans, who could draw that kind of hometown crowd. Like that's what you live for, that as a promoter, to have that. So I can't see how it wouldn't be in their interest as well, where they would be able to generate on-site ticket sales, and the television's the same price regardless where it's coming from. That shouldn't make a difference. And
it costs more if American television wants to cover it with their feed over there traveling in the UK and Ireland, unless they're claiming camera, whatever technical side, they can always take the feed from the UK and then broadcast it. From Belfast.
That's right. You certainly could do that. It's not an impossible thing to do. So when you consider how in the past we've had rival networks, be it Showtime and HBO, airing the same fight, if you can do that, you can certainly find Irish TV to put it all together, get the production done, and send the feed over a wire.
Yeah, it's what HBO has done many times in the past. When they were broadcasting in boxing, with Klitschko fights, they used to always just take the German television and just put the feet up. So it'll be interesting for sure. The Conlan options are there, but now also the 126. He's saying after the fight though he might go to 122. So is he? Do you know? Have you discussed this? Is he keeping his options open? He looked better at 126 this past weekend, but maybe he'll look as good at 122. But he's just, he's not in a position where I think he's easily making 122.
Well, actually, you're just a little bit wrong in what you say. The belt was in fact for the 126-pound interim belt at 126, but the weight on the contract was 124, so it was right in the middle.
Yeah.
So like the making an extra 2 pounds is always going to be. But his last fight, he made 122. He made 122 for his last fight, but he looked way better in this fight. I'd have to say that this fight was, I don't even want to say arguably, but just for lack of a better word, arguably the most, I don't want to say best, but the most complete that he has looked in his pro career. He did everything from box on the outside, fight on the inside, fight off the ropes, jab and move. All the things that encompass all what a good, great fighter has to learn how to do, he did it in that fight. And that's an important thing, especially, how good he was off the ropes. Winning the exchanges off the ropes, to me, was just fantastic. Even though I felt at times he waited there too long after winning the exchanges, he was really successful. He was really successful on the ropes, and that's a great thing. I've always loved that. Going back to my early days in boxing, when I see a fighter fight off the ropes and beat the guy up with his back to the ropes, that to me is a star. That's a star, man, when they can do that.
Because in boxing, right, one of the teaching points is that stay off the ropes. But if you're able to be there and stay calm and still be able to counterattack effectively, it's a skill. It's an added bonus, right? And not panicking on the ropes.
I don't know why, but from when I started as a young 18-year-old trainer, when I heard that stay off the ropes, the first thing I thought about was, well, you have to learn to fight off the ropes. And when I watched the master, to me, that's the master that comes to mind is Wilfred Benitez. When I watched him fight off the ropes, he was got beat. He's on the ropes. He makes guys miss and bam, 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 hits them coming in. Then he makes them miss again, hits them again. And James Toney was fast forward.
Mayweather even in recent years.
Mayweather as well, But that to me is an art that's, my God, I love it. It's one of the most beautiful things in boxing, that you're actually, in a sense, handicapping yourself by going to the ropes and then beating the other guy up. That's a true art. So I really like that he was able to do that. He boxed southpaw, he boxed right-handed, he showed power, he showed speed, he showed a great body attack, almost winning the fight in the 5th round on a body attack. So, it was just an overall great performance in a great ambiance with a wonderful support and the emotions running high, fighting another fellow Irishman. It was the recipe for a perfect night. And for me, one of the highlight moments of my life to be part of something like that, because it really was special.
No, it's been a good summer, right? With the Loma victory was a great performance, and now Conlan there. You're going to be in the camp of Usyk next month for the big fight against Joshua. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that, but look, it's definitely a cool thing. And if I look at Conlan and the other options now at 126 or 122, I just want to spitball a few names that are title holders and let me know if any of those to you make more sense than others. So right now, the WBO at 126, it's Emmanuel Navarrete, who I believe Top Rank also promotes and is a unbelievable, action-packed, tough guy, great fighter. Kid Galahad, who just had the big win to claim the IBF belt over in the UK. Leo Santa Cruz is the WBA, we know WBA, and we'll get to their craziness in a little bit later on. What happened in the Mikhail Fox fight and the decisions with the judge. But, Santa Cruz has a title WBA at 126, Gary Russell at WBC 126. Then if you go down to 122, it's Akhmadeviev, Figueroa, and Fulton who are the title holders. There's some options there, but I don't know. Do you think Conlan is definitely going to a title shot, like one of those big names next?
That's something we're going to have to try to get Jamie Conlan on and get him to answer.
We should, for sure.
That's one thing about multi-world champions. And I'm not sure even that Leo Santa Cruz still is in that mix, because I think he's on hiatus, right?
Well, he got knocked out badly by Tank Davis, but he hasn't yet, said that he's retiring.
But he got knocked out at 30, right?
That's correct. We don't know yet if he plans on coming back to 126.
That's the thing. So, I think there's a lot of it opens up options for fighters, and it allows it also. I think a lot of people criticize, that, there's too many champions. Well, look, we accept. I think the boxing world generally accepts, 4 world champions, one for each of the major governing bodies.
One governing body is starting to get it on the fringe a little bit more than the others.
Agreed, and but the reason that's happening is because the governing bodies, or the sanctioning bodies, I should say, are splintering even more. They're not happy with the splintering of the division into 4. They're now micro splitting their own belts, which is like, come on, everybody gets a belt. It's like Oprah, that she's giving hey, you get a belt and you get a belt. Everybody gets a belt, like, seriously? Like, it's insane. But, this is going to have to be, few things are going to have to be determined. Who do you like your guy against? Who do you want your guy to fight? At some point you can't pick the champion. You got to go with whoever's going to be available. And, you try to make it work for you. And you look at who you're up against. And of course, one guy's going to be better than another. And you try to get the guy that's best for you. And you try to parlay that into as much money as you can and win a piece of the world title. So, we're going to have to ask Jamie about that, on where they're eyeing and what they want to do.
Final question on this topic here. Do you think, is there any talk of whether or not Conlan wants to fight before the end of the year, or is it plans for next year, or no decision has been made on that?
When I left, I heard that they were looking at a December date.
Which would make sense, because when you fight in August, December is pretty much the quickest turnaround possible.
Correct. So now, does December mean January? Like, I don't know, hopefully.
No injuries, though.
I'm sorry?
No injuries after the fight. Hands okay?
No, everything was good. He got cut. Now, listen to this. This is a little crazy. Halfway through the fight, Adam Booth and Charlie Beach, Chucky, who's in the corner, said, Russ, he's cut. I'm looking. I can't see nothing, and bing, the bell rings. Oh, man. So, I'm getting my stuff already. I come up the stairs. He's got a little cut, right? A little scrape under his eye. That was okay, no problem.
Not exactly Badu Jack against Marcus Brown, huh?
No big deal, no issue, not even a trickle. Everything is fine. So when the fight ends, the doctor comes up and he said, I just want to take a look at the cut. I said, Doc, it really was nothing. It was just a little scrape underneath, And as I'm saying this, I'm looking at him and I said, well, unless something happened in this round, because when he left, there was nothing else. In the last 20 seconds, he got cut over both eyes.
Oh, wow.
In the last, they were in the exchanges, boom, boom, boom. And he told us after the fight, he said, I felt his head, and I said, fuck it, I'm going. And he still went at it. So he took 3 stitches over one eye, and I don't think he took another one. I think they used glue on the other one because it was smaller. But in the last 20 seconds, he got the cuts that he went out perfectly fine and came back last 20 seconds with 2 cuts over his eye, but it was the last round. So
there you go. Any and how about because you talked about the ring doctor or the commissioner? Everything okay with the Ireland, in Belfast, the commission there? Because I know in the past, sometimes when you go over to the UK, you've had your challenges with them.
British Boxing Board of Control. British Boxing Board.
Oh, it is a British Boxing Board of Control.
Robin Smith was there. Robert Smith was there, and we saw him. Everything was good, no issues. Everything was fine as usual. They usually are very, very efficient at what they do. There's usually no issues.
No, but I've seen you in the past with the Dillian White and the Oscar Rivas glove situation. When you were in the corner of Malik Scott years ago, that didn't go so well. It's funny you say that. When we've had those incidents arise, especially what happened with Dillian White and Oscar Rivas, Robert Smith wasn't there. And I don't know if that would have been different if he would have been there, because he's always come across as being genuinely a fair man. And I've never had an issue dealing with him.
So it was with someone we didn't know, and this wasn't the case this time. So so it was good. And I've said this to people before. I'm one of the few guys that have been fortunate enough to have been on both sides at a British fight card. And, you know, years working with, you know, in the corner with Joe Gallagher, you know, you come out of the dressing room, the fans are behind you. Great. Everyone's patting you on the back. You have a great welcome. I think, wow, what a great feeling this is. This is great. You know, wonderful. And then sometimes I've been over there on the B side, if you will, or the visitor side, and you come out. Oh boy, you know, it's like about being as welcome as a Russian hockey player in Canada in the 70s. You know what I mean? Like that's how you felt. Like you're on the other side, you know, and they're hurling abuse.
You didn't age yourself with that reference, right? A 50-year-old reference with a 70s Russian team against the Super Series there.
You know, you have to, I know, but you got to put things into context. I mean, that's what it felt like, you know, like it was, you know, I've been on the other side. So I've seen both sides of how things are treated. So, but you know, it was no issues with the commission. Corner was well. No one bothered you. I thought the ref did a good job, and I like that. I like that because I felt that, you know, the both fighters being there. I didn't feel that neither fighter was being, you know, given any special treatment. You know, it wasn't like you're trying to do a favor for the hometown guy. They're both hometown guys, you know, so right. It was a fair fight, and I think it was fair on both sides, and ref did a good call. And you know what, Matt, you know, whether it's the UK or Ireland, or when you have a fight that's fair, and I think that's all people want, even people in the business, that's what you want, is a fair fight and fair scoring and a fair referee. Nobody has ever complained in the history of boxing, said, what the heck? My guy lost the fight, but I mean, we're home. You should have given us the win. No one ever says that. You know what I mean? Like nobody ever. Right. People want a fair shake. And that's why in other sports, I don't understand, or even in boxing, I don't understand. If you have the availability of going to instant replay, how do you not want to get the call right? Who's going to ever complain that, what do you mean it's right? No, don't look at the replay. I don't care if it's right. I want you to take the wrong call. That's what you're saying. You know, that's in essence what you're saying. And that has always baffled my brain. It's about pace, right? It's about flow. They want to be able to make the call in a certain amount of time. But I understand your point completely. It's still better to take a little bit more time and get it right than have the fallout of realizing you made a major screw up because you were too stubborn to look at 30 seconds of video. And let's be honest. If the refs are that bad that every call they make has to be reviewed, well, we need to revisit how referees in sports are doing their job. But I don't believe that's the case. It doesn't happen that every call a ref makes. You know, there's not 27 goals scored in an NHL hockey game that you have to review. There might be one that you have to look to see if the puck went over the line. What's the problem? You know, who doesn't want to get it right? Who doesn't want to know if the ball hit the foul pole? Who doesn't want to know that? Who doesn't want to know if a tag was made for a winning run in the World Series? You know, I don't care about the flow. People want to know what's right and fair. I don't buy into that thing of it takes time and look at. What do you mean it takes time? They show it when you're sitting at home in your living room. They show it instantaneously. You render a decision right away. No, he was out. You see it right away. You know, like I'm for fairness, and I want it to be fair for everybody. Let the athletes, let the thing be decided in the ring. And that's what happened with this fight with Mick, and a great night. Yeah, we got two more topics to get to this evening's podcast. Shut up. We're moving on. Well, we have to, Russ, because we're going to run out of time. And unless we want to, we were trying to have we noticed a lot of the people, they like the 45 minutes or less format. Once in a while, we'll go over, of course, when we have guests and things like that nature. But one of the topics I wanted to get to tonight is Canelo. Last time we spoke, the Caleb Plant fight was pretty much not going to happen. And then there was a few other names thrown into. We talked about the prospect of possibly an Artur Beterbiev fight that I think the diehard fans want to see. But then it looks like Dimitri Bivol has emerged as a front runner, but the fight won't be happening in September. Canelo has made it clear now that he's eyeing a November return, which I believe is his right, considering he's been very active for a star pound-for-pound fighter, especially during a pandemic. Now, let's say it is Bivol. I think Bivol is a better fight than the Caleb Plant fight. At least I'm more interested in that one. It's not the Beterbiev fight, but
to me, it's a good in between. Your thoughts that if ever Bivol becomes Canelo's opponent, is that a fight that excites you? Is that a matchup that you think can cause problems for Canelo?
Cause problems? I don't know. I think it just more solidifies his claim as perhaps an all-time great. I think he's a Matthew. I think he's an extremely talented, gifted fighter. You know, I think he's a special breed, and to see a special breed of fighter operate against, not just to see him go against regular opposition and he looks great against regular opposition. I'm talking about looking great against the best the division has to offer. And you have to consider Bivol, whether you want to argue that he is the best, he is one of the best in the division, without a doubt. You know, when you think of, okay, who's the champion? Bivol better be it. Those are the guys. They're the best. You got the best the division has to offer. Of course, I'm excited by it. Even if he is to dominate and win every round, and they say, oh, another great performance. Yo, you dominated and won against the best the light heavyweight division had to offer, or one of the best. You know, how can you not be excited about that?
But and at the moment now, there's even talks that the fight might be at 168 or a catch weight between 168 and 175. So to be determined. But one thing about Canelo, you talked about the golden rule, meaning that the guy who has the cash decides what's going on.
No, get it right. Because when I do the bet 9-9 thing, you want me to get it right. So you got to get it right. You can't just say it's the golden rule is the guy who has the gold makes the rule. That's what the golden rule is.
Gold meaning cash, right? So I know what you're saying. But you know this with Canelo. But the thing I'm noticing more and more, and you had this with Callum Smith. How much time did you notice when you finally found out you're actually fighting Canelo? Like the contracts were signed?
Officially 5 weeks.
Which is nothing in the biggest fight of your life. You would like to ideally know about, what, 12 weeks in advance that you're fighting the guy?
You do. The negotiations were ongoing. So they leave you on the, on the cusp. Do I spend the money? Do I bring the sparring partner? Do I invest? But so you're always on the cusp, and then they know they're fighting. They know they're fighting. They leave you dangling. They leave you dangling out there, and then they say, yes, the fight is done. We accept all the conditions, and you go back with certain negotiations. And of course, as you're getting closer to the fight, your power of negotiation diminishes as well. You're a little, okay, we've got to take this. If this was the money they offered us, but now we start asking for these conditions, they start to take away this. Okay, well, we got to take it. We're this much into it. We've been training already for 4 weeks, because we knew we're a possible opponent. And so you're already invested into that. So look, they use all the leverage that they can, and they use listen, Mayweather did it. But
I think Canelo's been doing it a little bit more than others since the Golovkin fights, which we knew were happening with a lot of, time to promote and to train. And everybody knew that since he's kind of overtaken being the pound for pound star, he's doing this now, even with the November fight. He's not confirmed that Bivol is happening. He kind of, now Eddie Hearn's hinting that he's the front runner. Canelo may know in his mind who he wants to fight. He may decide at the last minute, but it just seems to me a little bit of a competitive disadvantage. I would like to see, if the Bivol fight does happen, whoever is chosen next, give them at least 8 weeks. But some people are saying this, it's the advantage of being the draw. You decide and when the fight is happening. And others, more cynical, when they see Canelo having a PED positive test in the past, think there might be some more nefarious things at work as to why he's doing this. I don't want to speculate, but do you agree, though, that there should be 8 weeks, or you think, he's the boss, he gets to decide what he wants to do?
I would love it if you could say there should be. I would love that someone could be able to impose that. But how are you going to impose it? He's going to call.
Even De La Hoya, the fights had more promotion, I thought, more leadway when he was the big name in boxing. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that, I don't know, we'll see. Smart on Canelo. He's, the matchmaking has been part of Mayweather did it in terms of who he was fighting and how he was going to fight them. It just seems like you said, I guess it's the golden rule, right? These guys, they want to have all the advantages on their side.
Yeah, and the thing is, now there's not a lot of options. He's made sure to get his hands on all the belts, so all roads, or a majority of them, all roads lead to Canelo. Yeah. And by, I think with the Caleb Plant fight, it's almost made Caleb's belt, and that's unfortunate for Caleb Plant, but it's almost made his belt redundant, really, that it doesn't matter anymore, and we're
Well, you can still have some good fights. Let's say he fights David Benavidez. I'd love to see that fight.
Sure, and you'd want to see Benavidez again. That opens it up for some of the challengers.
Right.
But fair play to him. He felt that they weren't negotiating in good faith, and he wants to call the shots as to how it's going to happen. So, Matthew, it's hard to say. You have to wonder that if somebody like a Caleb Plant or anybody else would have the pedigree and the drawing power and generate the revenue that Canelo generates, would they not do the same thing? Would they not do, control it, the same thing? It's their show. They're doing it. You're coming in for the payday, because without me, you're making half of, or less than half, what you would make fighting anybody else. So that has a price. That comes with a price. So is it right? No, it probably isn't. Does it take away from the buildup of promotion? It used to be where boxing, was a promotion buildup between two fighters, then sometimes that would change. Like, it got to the point where Mike Tyson could fight anybody. It didn't matter who he was fighting. Tyson was the draw. And I think that's the same thing with Anthony Joshua in the UK. I think that's the same thing with Canelo. I don't think they care about who they're fighting. It's a Canelo fest, you're coming out for Canelo. So I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer to it, Matt. I really don't. I think he's just exploiting everything. You're going to get this kind of money, then you're going to do it under my terms. You demanding, and we're paying you this money. We're buying those services. What can you do? You have to take it. If Callum Smith decided, I'm not doing it. No, I'm not succumbing to what you say. I'm keeping my belt and not. Okay, no problem. Canelo would fight somebody else, and Callum would have to fight a tough fight against somebody for, half of what he made with Canelo, maybe less.
Very good points. One thing that wasn't fair at all, in the boxing world and the diehards who watched the fight over the weekend were pretty unanimous, is the Mikhail Fox, decision against Gabriel. I believe it's Maestre. There you go. The proper pronunciation. And Maestre comes in with 3 professional fights. He's fighting for a belt, another belt again, that's being thrown out there. And I thought, unless you're Lomachenko or somebody with the huge amateur pedigree, I was kind of surprised he was in that position to begin with. And he should have lost the fight. Fox did a great job. And then he not only does not get the result, Fox we find out later that one of the judges from the WBA appointed, and we have the story here now, that it's Gloria Martinez Rizzo, is officially suspended because they found on Twitter, and somebody took maybe 2 minutes of digging up a bunch of racist tweets. And to me, what's crazy is that I remember having discussions with Stéphane Auger, who was a retired NHL referee that I work with, and he told me about the background checks the National Hockey League does for anybody who's in a position of refereeing and stuff like that. It is just incredible the amount of due diligence they do before they appoint these people in these positions. And yet judges in boxing, that's another, again, I think, like, if it was a more organized sport in some sense, I don't think these type of things would be happening, that somebody like Gloria Martinez Rizzo would have been allowed to judge in the first place, because it would have taken them 5 minutes to find out we can't have a racist person judging a fight involving people of color. What the heck are we doing here? And it was just another, I think, dark cloud, whatever you want to say about it. It's not good for the WBA, and it wasn't ultimately a good look for boxing.
Matthew, there's more than just that. We always talk about, first of all, athletic commissions doing things to protect the fighters, right? Like, that's their job, is to protect the fighters. That's their ultimate job, is to protect the fighters. How do you allow a guy who's only had 3 fights to fight a guy with a winning record, a massive winning record, a solid fighter like Mikhail Fox? How do you approve that fight of a guy who's only had 3 professional contests? Well, not only that, how do you approve it for an interim world title? How does a guy with 3 fights quantify? And when we say interim, if I'm not mistaken, interim means that's the same thing that what used to mean you're the number 1 contender to the world championship. And commissions are allowed to do this. Now, sometimes you try to take a guy who has 4 fights, 3 fights as a pro. You want to match him against a guy who has 24 fights. The guy's record is 12-12, and the commission says, no, you can't fight that guy. He's not good enough, Okay, but he's not good enough to fight a guy who's 12-12. Okay, that's fair. What makes it that you felt okay to take a kid with 3-0 record, not an Olympic champion, not a former world amateur champion, nothing like that, and put him in a fight for 12 rounds in his 4th pro fight, 12 rounds against a guy who has, what does Mikhail Fox have? 20 professional fights or so, somewhere in that range, and put him, and I know Mikhail Fox because I was in Fazladin Gabe Nazarov's corner, the Olympic gold medalist who lost to Fox.
Yeah,
He's
2019.
I'm sorry? Yeah.
In 2019. So Fox has 25 professional fights, doesn't bring a lot of power to the table, but he brings skill.
And experience. And, now he beat the Olympic gold medalist, and you saw it fit as a commission to approve a fight against the guy who beat the Olympic gold medalist in a unanimous decision, I might add, beat him, and you say, okay, it's okay for him to fight a guy 3-0. What happened to protecting fighters?
Well, it's because Fox had lost, pardon me, in his previous fight against Lucas Santamaria, but so what? He lost a decision, and then he fights, like you said, there's a title fight. So look at this. Not only is the guy in Maestre fighting for a title after his limited experience, Fox is coming off a loss.
Fighting for a title after coming off a loss,
which we saw with Gamboa against Doheny. Like it's the standards have become out of control, and but the worst part about the judge situation is that you would think once they find out the horrendous scorecard plus racism, banishment for life. No, 6 months. We'll see you in 6 months.
You're not serious.
Yeah, that's the story reported by Mike Coppinger of ESPN. It's a 6-month ban at the moment. Now, could it be more? It should be lifetime ban, but it's just like we saw this in the past. What was it, CJ Ross, and horrible scorecards from judges that you have to think it's either incompetence or corruption, but not with the background of racism. Like, what are we doing here? Like, how is this even a thing that it's allowed to be? The door is open for a possible return. So, anyways, it was another kind of black eye for the WBA.
A lifetime ban without the racist remarks.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. But then
just on incompetent, you're not competent enough to ever be allowed to judge again. And after the investigation shows that you were not corrupt, we did an investigation, you're not corrupt. You are so blatantly incompetent, you're never to be allowed to enter an arena that's hosting a boxing match. It's like in the casino, they put you on a banned list. You're on a list, you can't get in. That's it. You're barred from entering boxing again.
You know what I think the problem is with the judges, Russ, is that it's not that much of a lucrative business to be a judge, is it?
No.
So the problem is that a lot of these leagues, when they have important people to make calls, they're compensated to be almost doing this full time in the most part. Like now some leagues, sometimes they have to have other jobs on the side, but a lot of the referees and judges get to be compensated to a point where this is their thing. And so I think what hurts boxing in producing quality, competent judges, maybe I'm wrong, but it's because the financial money that they can give these people is the stakes are not high enough. You don't think it's a good explanation? No,
I don't agree. I'm sorry. I don't agree with you. I don't think that because it's not lucrative to be a judge, or it's not a living to be a judge or a referee.
Maybe unless you're in Nevada, I guess sometimes.
Maybe I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe we can get someone from Nevada State Athletic Commission to be on and ask him about this. But I don't think the fact that you don't make a lot of money from you excuses your competence, because in in amateur boxing you have competent referees and judges, and you have incompetent ones, and neither of them are paid to do it.
So you think there's a pool of very good judges that are just not being selected?
I guarantee you there.
I don't think so. I think there's a limited amount of judges that you can trust on every event that are going to come up with a consistent quality scorecard.
Okay, you might be right about that. I'm just saying that there's too many incompetent ones that are still in. That's where I'm saying the problem. And
because that's why. So that's what happens. There's a finite amount of judges that you really trust to be on point. So you end up being stuck with rolling the dice with somebody that you don't know what the heck is going to happen.
Maybe, Matt.
Especially on some of these states that we see like consistently come up with bad judging.
Maybe that's why, like, do we want to allow judges to be brought in from other places? But it's like each commission wants to protect, who they have and use local commissions, local judges. I feel that that's wrong as well, because
here in Quebec, I'll say this: we're fortunate that in Quebec we have very good judges.
Yeah,
it's rare that we come up with scorecards or like, what the heck is this on it? Once in a while it happens, but I think this province and others have been able to produce consistent judging.
Listen, I know that sometimes there could be judging at questionable calls, guys not scoring a knockdown, giving the guy 2 points, not giving him the 2 points, all this kind of stuff. There's always these kind of mistakes, and I've pointed them out. I don't think this fight fell into that category. This wasn't a close fight that could have gone either way. That so instead of being 7-5, it could have been 8-4. Like this was clear cut. Like there's nobody who said that was a good decision. I think that was quite fair. That was a fair decision. Nobody.
Even there's the contrarians on social media. There always seems to be a few, no matter what. But even in this case, it was just unanimous and the outcry.
That's bad that you do that. That's really blatant that happened, and it's bad light on the WBA. It's bad light on the local commission, and it's bad that fighters, trainers, cornermen, managers, even promoters are subject to disciplinary action for breaking rules, bad conduct in the corner, bad conduct at the fight. Even if saying things could be, you could say things that sometimes could put you, by bringing the game into disrepute, by saying bad things like a promoter would say, that's happened before. But yet judges can deprive a fighter of, and we know in boxing that your next fight is always, your purse for your next fight is always based on the result of your previous fight, right?
Yeah.
And your incompetence and or / corruption, leads to somebody who's risking their life in the ring to now fighting for less money than he would have because of you, and you're not accountable for that in any way. You want to render a bad card? No problem. Now you're banned. You're banned for incompetence. You can never be used again. That's like, a guy drives all his life, and one night he drinks and drives and kills somebody. They don't say, well, the guy drove for 30 years. He was fine. Let's keep him drive. Okay, it's manslaughter. You know what I mean? You do your time for the same thing. You do that. You're that bad at what you do. You're done. You're done. We don't need you in our sport. There is physical bodies. There's enough to get to do fights. Perfect. And it's going to be up to them to not get banned.
Well, good news. There'll be an immediate rematch for Fox. He'll have a chance to win the title officially, even if he should have been appointed the decision. And the fight will be bigger because of all this controversy. In a weird way, in a twisted way. The rematch will be a bigger fight. Look forward to it down the road. We don't know exactly when it will happen, but it's supposed to take place. But the WBA ordered the immediate rematch, which was kind of ironic and funny in a sense, where it was a no-brainer. There should have been an immediate rematch, but the rematch should not have taken place. It should have been a decision to begin with.
When that happens, that just goes to show you how bad it is that they have to. Your decision, your scorecard forced the sanctioning body to order an immediate rematch because you were so bad. To me, that's enough to have you removed. You sit them down in the office, watch the fight, tell me what you saw. Well, I thought I saw that. Oh, so clearly you didn't see. You couldn't see. You're done. Because you can't justify your card. You cannot say, look, you can count it. There's so many ways of determining what you can justify in your card. You can't justify it. Bye.
Fair enough. All right, we got to get to the a good action fight that's on paper this weekend, and I'm very excited for. And if you're interested in placing a wager on this upcoming bout between Vergil Ortiz and the Mean Machine, Mr. Anber, where can they do so?
Bet99.com. And
right.
Great fight to bet on because an evenly matched fight. Kavaliauskas coming off the loss to Crawford, but he's, his world championship fight against one of the best fighters in the world. Vergil Ortiz, a guy coming up. Like, this is has all a recipe for a great fight. Like, this is a test for Ortiz now, and this is comeback for Kavaliauskas. Whoever you bet on, Bet99 will match your wager up to $600 if you win. So whatever you bet.
You use which code, Russ? What code do you need to use?
Boxing99.
That's correct. So let me just do the official read here. It was very well done, but I'm going to go with the official read. It's bet99.com, Canada's newest online sportsbook and casino. If you check out the player props, their bet builder, the risk-free life bet bonuses, and if you use the code boxing99, you get a sports welcome offer with a deposit match of 100% up to $600. Vergil Ortiz, 17-0 with 17 knockouts. He looked to me like a trained, like just a machine when he fought Maurice Hooker, who at one point was a tough guy at 140, moved up to 147. He's Golden Boy in Ortiz here. He's Golden Boy's probably biggest fighter now in their staple considering they've lost Ryan Garcia. Canelo's moved on, of course. Like, to me, this has the makings of being a war. And for Mean Machine, and you just pronounced his last name much better than I could. How would you go about it?
Kavaliauskas. Egidijus Kavaliauskas.
That's right. And he fought Mikhail Zuski from Quebec this past September, almost a year ago now to the day, and he looked very strong, very, game. But Ortiz has a technical ability that I think is superior to the Mean Machine. But you want to see, once he has that impact, that resistance from a veteran, I don't see how this fight is not all action from the get-go. And especially considering Ortiz's style.
I know that we remember going down the stretch, the talent and overall skill and punching power of Crawford prevailed, and he ended up getting the stoppage. But remember, go back to round 1 or 2.
Yeah, it was not an easy start for Crawford.
He got shook, and he got shook bad.
And Crawford has better defense than Ortiz does. So I'm going to, you never know. But if Ortiz passes this test, he will be right up in the conversation of not only the big names at 147, but the big names in the young, up-and-coming boxing world. We saw Stanionis last week in the, disappointing result with a headbutt, and then, Luis Collazo having to retire, and it's kind of a no contest. And Luis Collazo is actually going to retire, a tough game veteran. Respect for Luis Collazo. He had a lot of tough fights over his career. He's now saying that he will not, interested in a rematch. He's retiring. Stanionis will move on. Those are some of the big names in the action guys at 147 for the relief of Manny Pacquiao, which we'll get to next week a lot, fighting now Yordenis Ugas instead of Errol Spence. But the second wave, everybody always said after Mayweather, there's never going to be any good welterweights. What's going to happen? No, it happens. The cycles of boxing, it takes a bit of time right now, but Ortiz has all the makings of possibly being one of the big names. So look forward to that fight big time.
And you know what? Again, the beauty of that fight, and in any sport, it's not just the win or loss. It's what's on the line that makes it interesting. You can watch two guys, flipping quarters, odds and evens. It's not, it's boring. You're not interested. The same two guys are flipping for $1,000 a flip. Suddenly that becomes interesting, right? It becomes interesting.
The stakes increase the anticipation.
So there is big stakes on this because Kavaliauskas desperately needs to prove that he's world-class and belongs among the world's elite. And if you fought somebody like Crawford, the next step down is a contender and a rising star like Vergil Ortiz. That's the price you pay for losing your world title fight. Unfortunately, you get a shot again, but it's not an easy one. But it's your chance for redemption. A win. Imagine Kavaliauskas, a win against Vergil Ortiz, how that catapults him right back into the thick of things.
Of course.
Great payday. And Vergil Ortiz fighting a guy that shook the heck out of Crawford, and now fought for a world title, and you do a better performance than Crawford did. What does that do for your career? These are the kind of fights that are interesting.
And there was rumors that Crawford and Ortiz could be a clash, and maybe Ortiz didn't want that fight just yet, which I don't necessarily blame him for, but could be very interesting because Crawford, we're not entirely sure who he's going to be fighting next. We don't know what the situation is. So to be continued. Mr. Anber, any final thoughts? Must feel good that you can come back from a fight and not have to quarantine after being the king of quarantine for much of this pandemic.
Very good. I'm very happy about that. I'm worried from all the other news that I'm hearing of cases being on the rise, and I hope that we're going to be able to get through this supposed fourth wave that's coming. And it's sometimes if you let this get to you, it almost makes you lose a little hope that, okay, well, if we had a first wave and we had a second wave and we had a third wave and now we're having a fourth wave, are all indications pointing that we're going to have a fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth wave? Like, when does the wave stop? You know, does the wave just keep coming? That's kind of worrying me a little bit. Benavidez now tested positive, so his fight is off with Uzcategui.
Yeah, Uzcategui. Yep.
Right, his fight is off. I mean, like,
Fury and Wilder postponed because of COVID. Fury Wilder was postponed because of COVID.
I was just, as I said, Tyson Fury got Teofimo Lopez tested positive because of COVID. You know, like, so it's still a dangerous time. But I'm glad, you know, that they didn't have to quarantine, and I hope we can keep, because being at events like where I was gave you a little bit sense of normalcy, returning to a little normalcy, and then you have to keep paying attention that it's all is not still normal, you know, and we still have to be careful, and we're seeing that, and we still have to protect those that are vulnerable. And, you know, you might feel okay that no, there's no problem for me and there's no threat, but you don't know who you could be affecting and hurting that it would be a problem for. And we have to be careful about this. I just, you know, numbers they say are on the rise. I don't know what that means. Does that mean you're testing more people, or does that mean more people are sick? You know, my concern when I want to hear the news, emergency wards are fine. There's only this many people in the ward. You know, good. Hospitals are good. Doesn't matter if there's 1,000 people who have the virus, but no one's getting sick. No one's going into hospital. That's the sounds that I want to hear. You know, I want to make sure that the hospitals are taken care of, because they could infect everyone else in the hospital. That's what I'm worried about.
There you go. Dr. Anber has spoken. Everyone, take care. Thank you very much for tuning in again, and we'll be back next week. Bringing some guests also in the coming weeks. A lot of big fights as we going to line up into the fall schedule. Thank you very much, Mr. Anber. Have a good evening.
You too, brother. It was great. Thanks.